Yeah, it's obviously a new year, new faces in the clubhouse. Still a lot of the same in there. So feel great. Shoulder feels great. Dove for a ball at some point pretty early in the season. Had an impingement with had some inflammation in there as well. So some of that kind of stemmed to where I couldn't plane out as early as I wanted to and just kind of chopped down on the ball. So, but kind of looking back at it, I was proud of the way it turned out at the end to be able to kind of put together that season with not feeling 100%. So, yeah, looking forward to getting back and feeling 100% healthy this year.
That's great. Gunnar Henderson, Orioles shortstop. That was a Birdland Caravan over the weekend, talking about many things, and that particular subject right there was the shoulder injury that we talked about yesterday, Nolan, with Rockabacco, the shoulder impingement that no one really knew about for the majority of the season. And apparently Gunnar hurt that thing diving for a ground ball. We knew about the injury that kept him out of the opening week of the season. But the shoulder impingement may have had a lot to do with the reduction in power numbers, because he's still at 280, 17 homers, stole 30 bases. And we talked about it as it was happening, playing Gold Glove level defense when games, I don't remember how many, but multiple games without committing an error. So he didn't seem to be laboring health-wise. But as he said during the Hot Stove Show on another station, and there with the media a couple of days ago, shoulder impingement was an issue for him. As we heard him say multiple times, he feels great. Meeting Craig Albernaz was great. Everything was great. But if the Orioles want to reach whatever heights they have set for themselves, and I think we all want them to get to the playoffs and win a series or two, if Gunnar Henderson doesn't play great, the chances of that happening diminish greatly. All right, I've worn that one out here in the first 2 minutes of the show. Gunnar Henderson is the most talented guy on the team. With all due respect to Pete Alonso and Adley Rutschman and Colton Cowser, name a guy. Westberg, in my opinion, second best guy, but we'll get into that as the season rolls. Gunnar Henderson playing at an optimum level, 2024 MVP level guy, makes the Orioles the best they could possibly be, and maybe alone gets on a heater, can carry you for a couple of games when other players are struggling. Last year was good by Anthony Volpe status, or standards, with all due respect to Anthony Volpe, of course. Gunnar Henderson standards, a guy that's looking for $500 million maybe when he gets to his contract signing with Scott Boras, that's unacceptable. So we'll give you the mulligan. Rookie of the Year, starting shortstop in the All-Star game in 24, MVP level player. Last year just never really seemed to get rolling to Gunnar levels. Not that the ones we expected, I guess.
Right, it was right from the jump. I mean, you get that delayed start. It was almost like he was just chasing the entire time. But the injury context here with the shoulder, I kind of came away from that headline late last week, early this week, being encouraged. One, that he's healthy, but two, that he was able to put up the numbers he did with that kind of nagging injury. And you went through it there. Besides power, I thought everything was fine, or to even great in some cases. You know, hit for average well. He's striking out a little bit less than he did in previous years. Walks maybe a slightly better, but at least the same. So I didn't have any major glaring issues with him. I mean, 17 home runs, you got to get that number up there. And especially if you're going to play, 150 games like he did, that's got to be over 25 at least. But he was saying with the shoulder that he just couldn't swing up. He couldn't, the plane of his bat was more...
His launch angle wasn't what he had hoped for.
Driving the ball more into the ground than he is putting it in the air, I guess. So hopefully it's a return to form this year. But I'm ultimately, like I said, I'm just encouraged, because if a down year for him, and not just a down year with injury results in a 5-WAR season, that's your franchise player right there.
Yeah,
I mean, we're in business.
And you look at when he came up at 22 homer in his first game against Cleveland. And what I remember about that one, Nolan, was he's rounding the bases, his helmet's flying off. He's doing all sorts of crazy things. And then in 2023, we hit 4 home runs and 116 at-bats then. 28 and 23, 37, as we said, in 24, and then 17 last year. So he's averaging 22 homers for his career. And I'm going to aim a little higher home run-wise. I think he's 30 across the board. I think he's a 30 double, 30 homer, 30 steal guy. I think he's got that level of talent. And hopefully, health permitting, he starts hitting some of these pretty impressive benchmarks.
I'm with you on that. I think but 25 is kind of your base.
We'll deal with it, sure.
And really, I mean, the difference between 25 and 30, when you look at 162 games and the pacing, a hot couple weeks can get you from 25 to 30. So, yeah, I mean, is he going to consistently be pushing 40 the way he did 2 years ago? Probably not. But if he's settled in that 30 range, that's just fine. Plus, as you mentioned, the added speed. That was the big thing for him last year, is actually just attempting steals. Because before, he had quality base running skills where he could go from first to third on pretty much anything, hit hard. But then you just, I don't know, adding the opportunities to do it. Knowing when to take off, that was a big thing for him. Whereas there's other guys on the team who I think have speed. Jackson Holliday naturally just has enough speed to steal bases, but from a technique standpoint, he was all out of whack last year.
Yeah, he does not seem as instinctive as Gunnar is in that aspect of it.
So, hey, there's another thing for the new coaching staff to tap into with him. But, we were talking about building this lineup to be as well-rounded as possible, and we want Gunnar to hit more home runs, but it has to be about the full picture, because we've seen how quickly this lineup can just devolve into, all right, home run, home run, home run. And when it's hot and it's working, you ride it out. But even that entire time, you're saying, this is going to run out at some point. And how are they going to score? Because they're not manufacturing runs any other way. So I need to see a team that's very active on the base paths, a team that's willing to get on base by any means necessary. And that starts with Gunnar.
It's Vinny and Haynie, 105.7 The Fan. Turn it up Tuesday. Bob Haynie, Nolan McGraw, Alex Camponi is back on the other side of the glass. So pitchers and catchers on February the 11th. Then Gunnar's going to leave because he's going to play in the World Baseball Classic. Same with Dean Kramer. But we did the over-under win total for the Orioles yesterday, 85.5 according to ESPN via DraftKings. We'll wait to see what Pacoda has for them. And 85 puts you in the ballpark, no pun intended, for being a wild card level team. Based on last year's debacle. And last year was a debacle. Ton of injuries. Elias did a terrible job putting together a starting rotation. Your manager got fired. I mean, you finished last after making the playoffs 2 years in a row and having a winning season in 2024. The liftoff, rebuild's over, et cetera, et cetera. You regress big time. So last year was a debacle. 85 wins to me would still be somewhat unacceptable based on the expectations I had for them and a lot of fans last year. All right, if you get back in the playoff mix and you're in a really, really tough division, we get all that. But being middling and sniffing wild cards, this isn't what we envisioned, Nolan McGraw, when we went into opening day 24, certainly opening day last year. The aggressive moves that Elias has made in the offseason, are they done yet? Doesn't seem as though they are, but I think they've done enough to encourage us to the point even national pundits are looking at the Orioles as a breakout team this season. And if they don't break out, we're going to be searching for reasons why, because you can't blame Brandon Hyde any longer for the woes of the Orioles. So 85 wins, even with the roster they have on paper now, to me, would be disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, without getting to see them play, right, and how a 162-game season unfolds, injuries and everything, just on the surface, I'd probably tend to agree with you. But compared to, I guess, how everyone finished last year, only 3 teams reached 90 wins in the AL last year and the year prior. So, when these projections come out, and you mentioned yesterday, I think I was more so surprised that ESPN, which is tied to the gambling thing with DraftKings, that they had the Dodgers over 100, which by itself isn't egregious. I think a lot of people would probably shoot for that with their roster. But then your next closest team was like 10 wins less, the Yankees, in the low 90s. That doesn't add up to me. If everyone was bunched together between 85 and 93, I would get it. All of your contenders were in there, and even your top-tier World Series contenders were in that mix. I would understand it. And PECOTA, that's all analytical, whereas the betting's just trying to get you to pick an even amount of people betting the over and an even amount of people betting the under. That's why they set it at 85. PECOTA's all analytical. There's no money behind it, and they always lowball teams. They might have the Dodgers at 93 wins as their over-under. So we'll see. But I think to consider this team playoff caliber based on the offseason moves they've made, I will go there. But I can understand why they might be on the lower side because they haven't found that front-end starter yet.
And we look at the division as well. How much better are the Yankees than they were last year? If they're better at all. Has Boston improved enough? They made some moves to help that starting rotation. Toronto gave Dylan Cease a ton of dough. Well, it's Tampa. They're kind of in their phase of they're going to be a pain in the ass. They'll compete, maybe exceed expectations. But you're in a really difficult division. But I think the Orioles, maybe more than any other team in the American League East, and this isn't orange Kool-Aid, based on what they brought in, I think they've improved themselves more than any team in the American League's East. Question is, they had a lot of ground to make up. Have they done it? And that's what we're asking you, the people here at 410-583-1057. Yeah, we'll get to the Super Bowl. Ravens are still looking for coordinators. Jesse Minter is going to be introduced on Thursday. But I think the Orioles, as we get closer and closer, Nolan, to opening day, spring training for sure. They're an intriguing team. They've changed things. And I think the excitement level, I was excited last year. Maybe it was false excitement as things proved to be.
There was reason to be excited at the time.
Yeah, but this year, my optimism level for this year's team is far greater than last year's. And if, let's say, a Charlie Morton level guy is pitching game 2, like we saw last year because of injuries and other things, then maybe it might get haywire. I just think they're going to have the offense to cover a lot of weaknesses they might have pitching-wise.
I think there's excitement over new era, too, right? New coaching staff, new manager leading things. Sure, the front office is the same, but it does feel like a little bit of a mini new era, so to speak. But, that goes both ways, where, Hyde at one point became the scapegoat, and it was just easy that way. And Mansolino, even though he got better, was always just viewed as an interim. So, didn't really take him serious in that regard. So now it all counts. It all matters. When they were winning in September at times, it was like, it's house money. We're not going anywhere this year. The roster's been depleted at the trade deadline, but they win some games. It just makes you feel good. Now it matters again. You come out slow in April and May again, it's not going to fly. Patience is going to run thin just as fast as it did last year.